This next video requires a serious look. It comes to us from a pilot with nearly 30 years of commercial and military experience. He knows what should and shouldn't be flying around up there. And what he caught on camera can't be dismissed. March 19th, 2020. We're in the skies over Monterrey, Mexico, on a cargo plane headed to Memphis, Tennessee. About an hour into the flight, while Captain Eric Delgado is enjoying his dinner, something catches his eye. He pulls out his device and records this.
Oh man, that is phenomenal, dude! I'm so glad you saw that, and you saw it drop out of the sky and just stop.
I thought it was a shooting star, then it just stopped.
This is awesome, man. And it's pulsating too, man. That is nuts.
Captain Delgado says this thing dropped straight down from above and hit his plane with some kind of spotlight.
It looked like a lighthouse in some thin fog as it's turning. So that really got my heart going.
No doubt a UFO shining a light on your plane would be a terrifying moment.
Thought there could have been a safety issue because initially this thing is turning into us, and then it decided to park itself off our left wingtip.
The glowing orb maintains its position, pacing the plane. Delgado says it stayed there for 25 minutes before darting off at a sharp angle.
At that point, the fear was gone, and then it was just, I was flabbergasted. It was just wonderment, I guess.
And there's more. This is the part of Mexico where Delgado saw the UFO. It's a short flight from central Mexico's zone of silence. A weird place that locals say blocks radio transmissions and where UFOs have been seen for centuries. And check out this video. Similar objects recorded by the Mexican Air Force in 2004.
I guess now I can definitively say we are not alone.
He's a pulsating orb. Look at that, dude. Look at that.
So what's the story down in Mexico? We passed Captain Delgado's video on to some top aviation and video analysts, and you need to hear what they have to say. We turn back to Mark D'Antonio, who has spent 15 years doing image and video analysis. He first wanted to check if this orb could actually be the planet Venus, which is sometimes mistaken for a UFO.
Number one, Venus doesn't move around in the sky like they saw it. And this object shone a light inside the cockpit of the aircraft. Planets don't have spotlights on them.
So could it have been a meteor or a piece of space junk? Fun fact, there are about 130 million pieces of junk in our orbit. But look at how this meteor leaves a long tail, and only for a few seconds. That's not what this thing does. Aviation expert Tim McMillan.
Meteors fly into the atmosphere, at a speed of 25,000 to more. You don't have something that's following you for 30 minutes. We can scratch that off the list. That's not going to be a good explanation.
McMillan is equally convinced this was not another plane.
If you'd had another plane that was flying in the vicinity, it would be operating the lights that are on either wing. So your green and red lights, anybody who's looked up in the sky has seen those blinking. And so you don't see anything else but that.
Now, at 576 miles an hour, we can also rule out drones, because there is no drone that I know of that goes 576 miles an hour at 37,000 feet.
And of course, other aircraft are supposed to show up on radar. But look at what happens when Delgado pans to the cockpit monitors.
There's weather about 40 miles off our left wingtip where this thing seems to have disappeared.
It may be the most inexplicable part of this whole incident. The orb never appears on Delgado's collision avoidance system or air traffic control's radar.
You would see, if there was another aircraft in the vicinity where they're looking, which is in this region, you'd see a plane on this. So we don't see that. So there's definitely not another aircraft.
You now have a case that's really, truly mysterious. This looks like there's mystery here.
That was a UFO. You can look at the footage and form your own opinions. I'm not the story. The footage is the story.
So America, time for the answer. Is it proof or not? Well, it's not a planet. There are no wings, and Delgado said it followed him. Now, we didn't see any evidence of the spotlight he described, but our verdict? A UFO, which is technically any unidentified flying object. July 5th, 2020, Big Bear, California. Experienced UFO spotter Eddie Garcia sets up under the stars with a group of friends.
So we're 20 miles away from civilization, and I really wanted to show the new guys in our group ET craft.
Eddie says he called out to the ETs with his mind, and amazingly, they came.
You see? They're flying tonight.
So I was kind of running the laser alongside with the ET craft so that our friends can follow along and see the craft for themselves.
But instead of just pointing out whatever's flying, this happens.
And now he's turning.
Ooh,
Yeah.
it's flashed.
Yeah, you see him?
Yeah.
Let's back up. Zoomed in and slowed down, the laser actually lights up the object, and it responds by making a sharp turn. Eddie, the man behind the laser pointer, is an active member of a movement called Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, or CE5. They believe they can initiate contact with aliens through a special kind of meditation and a phone app. Others have meditated in an effort to summon UFOs, most notably on a large scale in 1987. That August, tens of thousands of people gathered at 250 sites in an event called the Harmonic Convergence. A version of the idea lives on in CE5.
We show peaceful interaction with extraterrestrial species, and we show that there's nothing to be afraid of.
For Eddie, the search for contact has been life-changing.
I'm doing something bigger than myself. I think more positive about life. I kind of feel like I have purpose again.
The CE5 movement has become a worldwide phenomenon, with thousands of people from America to Australia meeting to summon UFOs. But is it really possible to trigger events in the material world simply with the power of the mind? And what exactly did Eddie capture on his camera? We turned the footage over to our video forensic analyst, Michael Primo.
So this recording had me scratching my head a little bit. So we sent the recording to MedX Forensics, which is one of our authentication tools that assesses the digital information of the file. I did not detect any evidence to support that that object was added.
So the video is low resolution, but it's real. Astronomer and video effects designer Mark D'Antonio tries to narrow down what this object could be.
Some people think that things like this could be aircraft, but bam, they get hit by a light and it shifts immediately to another location. That's not something an airplane can do.
Our aviation expert, Lieutenant Tim McMillan, thinks we can rule out another human-made flying object.
We don't see any of the other characteristics that would go with drones, all of the different warning lights that are on them, all the different aviation lights. We also don't hear sounds of drones. I don't think that drones would explain this at all.
D'Antonio considers a couple of non-human possibilities.
Now, a UFO can fly with weird motions like this. When you actually look at the motion that it took and you look at how much of the object was illuminated by this laser, that right there tells me that the object is a very small object, like the size of my two fists together. You'll notice as it's flying through, it's doing this. It's got this pulsation going on. It's possible that we're looking at a bat right here.
Here's the thing, though. There are conflicting reports about bats and lasers. One study claims they're attracted to them, but other reports say lasers repel bats. And as for the CE5 movement, D'Antonio is keeping an open mind.
I can't say whether that works or it doesn't work. I won't disparage it until I actually can get more evidence for it or against it.
So, UFO or bat? It's a close one, but in this case, because of the object's size and apparent fluttering motion, we're going to call this a bat, pending further evidence. But one thing is clear, reaching out to UFOs has put Eddie in a better place. July 13th, 2020, landscape gardener Ben Landricombe is on a camping trip in Devon, England. There, in the sylvan silence, he comes upon a scene that looks anything but natural.
When we walked about 15 minutes into the forest, It felt really eerie, and the woods were really dense and just felt a bit of an eerie place. Then it was this big, like a crater, like a perfect circle.
Uprooted trees create an oval-shaped clearing. Take a good look. There's no evidence of professional logging or landscaping. We slow down the video, and you can see the damage seems to be about 60 feet across, with blown down trees right next to ones that are perfectly upright. Did something large land here?
Well, it's definitely a mystery, and who knows what it could be, but I've never had an answer back to me straight saying what it is. So I'll still believe it's a UFO landing site.
Journalist Aaron McCarthy says after it was posted, Ben's video made international headlines, with many comparing it to another English phenomenon associated with possible UFO landing sites.
To me, whenever I see something like this, I think of things like crop circles, because they are just really pushed down with some force. It doesn't look natural.
Southern England is the site of the famous Rendlesham Forest incident of 1980. Sightings of unexplained lights in the sky that became known as Britain's Roswell. So did Ben stumble upon the footprints of a British UFO, or something we can't even guess? We turn to our experts for a closer look. Our military analyst, Tim McMillan, considers the possibility that a secret or experimental aircraft might have crashed here.
If you're talking about any type of aircraft, falling out of the sky or crash lands, you're gonna have an impact crater and you're going to see debris. So you would see a lot more going on. Definitely some physical evidence that would support any type of crash of anything.
Now, some have suggested this could have been caused by a meteor. If such a strike created a crater here, it happened long enough ago for most of the displaced Earth to fill in. But these trees look like they were felled recently. They're still green.
That doesn't really suggest that there was enough time for all of that meteor impact to have filled in and covered over in that kind of time.
If it's not a meteor, what about meteorology?
It doesn't take a terribly strong tornado to knock a tree over. Another possibility is what's known as a microburst, and that is something where a really intense downdraft forms within the thunderstorm, and it comes crashing out of the storm and then spreads out really violently, almost like you think about like a bomb went off.
Tornadoes and microbursts are uncommon in England, but Hintz looked up the weather history of that area to see if either is a possibility.
So when I looked at the radar, there were a series of intense thunderstorms that were causing flooding and all sorts of damage throughout this part of England. My best guess is that, given the damage pattern, a concentrated gust of winds happened to tear through that particular part of the forest and knock those trees down.
So, our verdict? Based on Dr. Hintz's analysis, we're going to say this seemingly supernatural event can be explained by the weather. Most likely a hyper-local wind burst of 90 miles an hour or so. But Ben says that can't explain the eerie, otherworldly feeling he experienced in those woods. To him, the mystery remains unsolved. Miami, Florida, in June of 2020. A man on the balcony of a downtown high-rise appears to capture something in the sky, and it's jaw-dropping.
Wow, no bull. Here's a sky over here, downtown, my house, my hand. What the is that? Holy.
Let's push in on that. At first glance, I'm gonna say it looks like a triangular craft rimmed by 5 lights. But a closer look reveals there's a 6th light, and one light is much brighter. And then...
Oh, what is that? What the...
The lights fan out like they are 6 different craft. As the witness continues his play-by-play, they zoom off into space at warp speed.
Oh, wait, bye.
Author and journalist Alexis Brooks has written and spoken extensively about UFOs.
So the question becomes, could this be a UFO? There are a lot of people having a lot of sightings, particularly in more recent years. In fact, it's been known that a sighting is reported every 8 seconds globally.
The lights remind some of another weird phenomenon. For decades, orbs called the Hesdalen lights have been seen over Norway, sometimes hovering, sometimes shooting off at speeds estimated at 20,000 miles per hour. Always silent, The Hesdalen lights have been known to sterilize soil near where they are sighted. Explanations include UFOs or an anomaly caused by gases released from the Earth. Yet the Miami footage is more orderly, really like UFOs flying in formation. It quickly goes viral.
What is that? Oh, wait. Bye. Whoa, it's incredible. Wow.
So what accounts for the strange lights? We have two video experts ready to weigh in. Forensic video analyst Michael Primo examines video evidence for court cases. And he doesn't just focus on what we're seeing, but also on what we're hearing.
When we investigate these types of recordings, we detect that there is a human reaction time where the brain needs to essentially catch up. And in this particular case, we don't see any kind of reaction time to a unnatural phenomenon such as this.
Downtown, my house, my hand.
It's almost as if the operator knows exactly what's going to happen when it happens. He's reacting almost perfectly. There is no reaction time.
Oh, wait, bye.
Then he instantly says, okay, bye, and then he pans away from it. It's very strange. I would expect that an operator doesn't simply move away after they see something like that. They stay focused on it.
Mark D'Antonio, another video analyst with a degree in astronomy, pointed out something else. Look at how the UFOs move compared to the background when the camera shakes.
As we step through this frame by frame, the clouds move and the object doesn't move with the clouds. The object, frame by frame, is changing position while the clouds are more gently moving in one direction. This is evidence of bad tracking, it's called, and it's a process by which we put fake things into real footage to make it look real.
And the biggest red flag of all, how could a cluster of UFOs appear over downtown Miami and only one guy notice?
Where are the other witnesses? We had one.
The man who says he made the video declined our request for an interview. Turns out you can overlay orbs on video with a simple smartphone app. Our verdict is hoax, one that muddies the water for people really trying to study UFOs. We'll call them out when we see them.